So, hello everyone, I'm very excited to be here today. I'm Tal Kyler, I'm the Group PM at Evinced for Web and Figma products. And what we do in Evinced is we offer a suite of tools for making sure that all your web and mobiles, applications, websites, they're all accessible. And our suite of tools is for every step in the development cycle. And today we're going to talk about accessibility for designers. So designers play a crucial part in accessibility, and there's a variety of reasons for that. First one being that...
Yes? Sorry, Tal, I think your camera is off as well.
It seems to be on. 1 second, I'll stop sharing. Can you see me now?
We can see you, but maybe if you can't do both, then you can share the screen. So.
Okay, let's see. Can you see me now? Can you see me now?
I don't. Does anybody else?
1 second, I'll try again.
Yes, you're good. All good.
Right. How do I move this? Okay, so like I said, designers play a crucial part in accessibility, and there's a variety of reasons for that. First one being that if you have an accessible design, then turns into accessible code. It means you roll to production being accessible already, and that saves a lot of time and money on going back and fixing accessibility issues. Second one being that accessibility is much more than fixing issues. It's about also making sure that the non-neurotypical user can use your product or service just like everyone else and have a very smooth and easy experience. For example, screen reader user or a keyboard user that can't use a mouse, or having captions to your videos for people with hearing impairment, so that they can check out or use your service or do any action that any other user can do. And that's important because, one, you want to make business with everyone. Of course, the non-neurotypical users play a big percentage in the audience. And also because you want to be inclusive, since that's the right thing to do and also important for the brand. So designers play a crucial part in the accessibility. And accessibility in design is much more than just color contrast issues. Like I said, it's actually planning the entire experience of the non-neurotypical user and making sure it's super smooth and easy to use, just like for the neurotypical user. So the issue with this is that today the tools are limited. Many of the tools focus on the color contrast and basic accessibility validations. And the ones that have also planning of the user experience, they, in many of the cases, require accessibility expertise. You need to know accessibility in order to add the focus order or headings. And that's a lot of learning to do, and big organizations have many designers that need to be trained. And our approach to this is a bit different. You don't need the expertise, but we give you the expertise. So today we're going to show you our product, which is Design Assistant. Design Assistant is a Figma plugin that you can just you can download it from the store. And the design system has two modes of operation. One is design system, and the second one is layout. Design system is making sure that all your components are accessible, and layout is about making your screens and flows accessible. So just to explain to anyone who's not very familiar with Figma, the way that it works in Figma is that you have a design system. The design system has all the components, for example, buttons and combo boxes and accordions and cards and all the different components. And then when you build a layout, you just pull out these components and these use as building blocks. This is important because it saves time and makes sure that the experience is consistent. So first mode of operation in Design Assistant is the design system. And it's very important to make sure that your design system is accessible because it's the building blocks of everything else. So now I'm going to show you scanning this component, which is a button. I'll just give a quick explanation about that. So you can see this is the component of a button. It has 126 variants. There's two dimensions to the variants. One is the look and feel. There's a button with text, text and icon, just icon, big button, small button, different sizes, and look and feels, different colors. And the second dimension is the state. So you have a default state, you have a mouse over state, you have a focus state, you have a disabled state. So these are the different states of the components. And the way that it works in Figma is that each variant has different properties. So there is a property, for example, that defines the size, the text, the icon, and there's the one defining the state. So in order for a component to be accessible, there's three parts of it in the design system. One is making sure you have all the right states. So in order to be accessible, the APG, which is the ARIA Authoring Practicing Guide, defines what states are mandatory for a component and what are best practice. And in order for your component to be accessible, you must have the mandatory states available. And that's a whole lot of learning and understanding because you need to read everything and know for each component. And that's where we want to bring our expertise, because what we do here is when we scan your component, we look at all the properties of the component, we allocate the one that defines the state, and then we automatically map it to the different values. So in this case, it's called state. Default maps to default, focus to focused, mouse over to hovered, and that's we understand how this property works and how the button is built. And then when we match it, what we do is we check for you that you have all the relevant states. So this button has 126 variants, but it can go up to hundreds and thousands, even I heard from one customer, of variants. So that's a whole lot of figuring things out. We do this automatically, and you can see that in this case, some states have different number of variants. Default has 26, focused has 24. So that could be an accessibility breach. We also see that there are two variants that are not matched to any state. So that also, these could be these missing two, and the designer can fix this and make sure that everything is well. I'm not going to fix it for the sake of time, but I'm going to continue to step number 2 in making your component accessible, which is making sure it has no accessibility violations. So you don't have to have the best practice variants, but if you do, they must be accessible. And we scan them all and make sure that they're accessible. I can see that there's 2 issues. So here I can see that this button, this variant has a color contrast issue, which I'm just gonna very easily fix, rescan, and that's okay now. And that's step number 2, making sure that all your variants are accessible and there are no accessibility violations. And then step number 3 is making sure you hand over this component to a developer that develops it in an accessible way. And we know that there's a lot of knowledge there as well that is required. So what we do is we allow you to generate guidelines. And these guidelines are super detailed guidelines for developers, which explain exactly how to build this component. It has information about the patterns with links to learn more, explanations on how to use semantic HTML and ARIA roles and attributes with code snippets, how to test it with a keyboard, and just all the information that you need. And this can be very easily exported or moved around, and this can be handed over to the developer, which can review it and develop it in an accessible way. So this was the design system. The second mode of operation for the design assistant is layout. So layout is anything that is could be a web page, it could be a screen, it can be a part of a screen or a web page or a flow. And here there's many things to do in order to make it accessible, and there's a lot of knowledge that you might require unless you have a tool that helps you with it. And because we know that not everyone is accessibility savvy, we offer the accessibility checklist, which just guides you through all the steps you need to take. And our approach is we'll ask the designer design questions and infer the accessibility from that. So in the checklist, there's the basic accessibility validations. These are all the issues like the color contrast issues and the touch targets. In this example, it's a color contrast issue. We help you with that. And then we help you plan the non-neurotypical user experience by adding aids that will guide, for example, screen reader users or keyboard users how to use your web page or screen. So, for example, we help you add landmarks. Landmarks are sections of a page, and they're served in two ways. One, they give you a mental image of what this page consists. So imagine it's an e-commerce website, and it's a product page, and you need to understand that there's a header, there's a footer, there's a side navigation, so you can understand what this page is about and navigate to the right place. For a seeing user, it's very easy. But for a screen reader user, this helps provide the mental image and of the page and be able to skip to the relevant part. Same with headings. Headings help you understand the content of your page. By the way, you can see that we create these little annotations to show you how we divided the landmarks, and then the developer, when you hand it over to the developer, we add the explanations. So headings are a table of content of the page. So when you want to understand what this page is about when using a screen reader, you can review this table of content and skip to the relevant page. Design Assistant automatically, using the styles of your design, builds this out for you. You can always make changes, but we provide the suggestion and we validate there's no accessibility issues in that. So you can see that this is a heading, this is in the H1, and this is the H2, and there's another H2 here. So we help you build out this table of content. Next steps is alt text, just adding all the relevant alt text for all the images. We extract the images and the content writer or the designer can add the alt text. Keyboard navigation is a good example of how we ask the designer design questions and then help with accessibility, because navigating with keyboard can be complex. There are different types of patterns, and there's arrow stops and tab stops, and not everyone understands how it works. So what we do here is we ask design questions. We take the design and we scan it, and then we extract all the components that we can find and we map them to a pattern. So like I said before, when you build a layout, you use the components from your design system. So we extract them with some we already know from the design system. Some we have algorithms that can identify them. And if we can't, the user can just choose the pattern from a drop-down. So we ask the designer to make sure that these components map to these patterns. Then in the next step, we extract all the components we find on the page. You can see here. And sometimes designers don't use components, although it's the best practice. They can add a button just as a group and not as a component, just a Figma thing. So in that case, they can be added manually to the list. And then we analyze and we create this focus order with explanation on how to navigate inside the composite components. So once the designer goes through the accessibility checklist, he doesn't have to remember anything or learn anything. You don't need to train all your designers in order to make sure they can make this layout accessible. They can just go through the checklist and we guide you there. And once that's ready, it's time to hand it over to the developer. And once again, we generate detailed guidelines. We copy the design so the designer can clean out the initial design. And we provide all the information about the keyboard navigation, the alt text, code snippets, and everything that the developer needs to know in order to take this design and make it accessible. So to summarize, our approach is you need the right thing to do the right thing. Our tool comes with the expertise inside, and that will help you make sure all your designs are accessible. So thank you.
Super, Tal. That was great. Really, really insightful and nice to see into the product there. And we, couple of things that I noticed there, which is great that you. Sorry, I'm just going to add spotlight. Couple of things that you said is that all of your designers, all of your teams don't need to be experts in everything, that you don't need to know all of the rules. And if there's, most people here are working in accessibility. By the way, is there anybody not working in accessibility, and is there anybody not aware of the WCAG guidelines? We can share some resources on that as well. But it can be quite an overwhelming thing to know all of the rules. So I suppose in this way, you're taking that overwhelming sense away from individuals.
Correct. And also, in many of the cases, we see that the accessibility team has to do a lot of work with the designers if they don't know, and then this will help the accessibility team focus on the strategic stuff and not just help with the day-to-day simple annotations of designs. So it's efficient. It's more efficient both for the accessibility team and for the designer.
Exactly. And Serena just said she'd love resource available. We just added there the WCAG guidelines, and we added the one from WCAG guidelines and then the EU Act as well. So accessibility really in your design and starting from the design system is incredibly important. And what's also important is that another thing you mentioned there, Tal, that you can automatically generate the annotation for the developers. And so that handover process from one team, one department that maybe in some cases can be quite siloed, that again, they don't have to think. You're taking that process away, and you're creating more of a bridge between the two departments.
Correct. And making sure that everything is accessible, because our approach is to make sure that every step in the development process is accessible. So you don't have to roll out and then go back to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. This may be a question that you don't have the answer to. There are some people asking about the design assistant and the plugin. So is the plugin for Figma, is it a standalone product, or you need to get an Evinced package to be able to use the design assistant?
No, it's standalone. You can use just the design assistant.
And go ahead, sorry.
You need to create an Evinced account, but you can just get just the plugin. You don't have to buy it as a part of any other suite.
Okay, but it's not free. There's still a cost for the design assistant.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I've shared the links to that, so you can book a demo, you can watch the videos, so you could get the design assistant. I think that added extra of automatically creating those annotations for the developers is something that is, such a time saver. Another question, is it compatible with mobile pages, for example, to play around with different ratios of screen sizes and devices?
So all of the mobile is actually something that we're currently working on, but it will be. Currently, it's the focus is more on web, but definitely we're currently working on it.
Super, super. So I think somebody's saying, so anyone else got a question for Tal on it? We are rendering your job obsolete, Kyle. No, in all seriousness, this is fantastic. I think everybody here, everybody working in accessibility probably already knows that there's a long way to go. Maybe your role won't become obsolete. Maybe it might shift in some sort of way, but the actual need for accessibility and the need for more teams working on it and working cross-functionally is, you know, really important. And this is one topic that we are going to be focusing on a little bit later this afternoon at 5 o'clock, is when we're discussing how to really align the engineering and the design teams and what tools can be used in that. And obviously we saw from Tal's demo there as well that Evinced is a really good tool for that. How do you account for testing that needs to be checked manually, like reading order? There's another question on that. Is reading order something that is part of Design Assistant?
So right now we're working on, like, we just released the keyword navigation, and next up is also reading order. So this will be part of the checklist, which is growing, and we're adding more and more functionality.
Super. So that's coming. And final question for Tal then. Is the Design Assistant working towards AA WCAG 2.2? Can it work towards AAA level as well?
Yes, currently it's AA. We'll add also that's on our roadmap to add, and also make it configurable so each organization can choose.
Super. So yeah, I think really what we can see here is that it's compatible with Figma. It's compatible with looking at your mobile sites, working from designers to developers, and also working towards those guidelines as well. So look, Tal, that was a great, I suppose, intro into Evinced, and great to know what you guys are building. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Do feel free to return to your day. There you are. And also your mic.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Welcome to Digital Inclusion Day. This is our second day of our first annual online conference. I say it's been going very well. So we have a lot of people here. Looking forward to getting to know more about you and also your topic today. So if you are okay to share your screen, I can turn off my camera and then we can have your talk.
Sure. So just a second, I'm sharing my screen.
I think maybe rather than sharing, it knocked her out. So let's just...
Sorry, Teams kicked me out.
Yeah, no problem.
Sharing my screen again. All right.